the first week went by, second week went by, the third week, I started craving for chapati because, we were just served rice every day, but I was very mighty happy with it. And the third week, all of us started having a discussion that I think we are missing something. Yeah, until 2 weeks, it didn't dawn upon us that what are we missing? And we were craving for chapatis because we've lived on that, brought up on that. It's been our staple food. So we realized that it's not a matter of few weeks, months, but it's going to be a year, in fact. So I walked up to the management and I shared my concern. And you won't believe that they changed the entire menu. They actually included chapatis just for the 12 of us in the cafeteria, just for the 12 of us. And now that is what they've called, that is why they are, that's called the tajness or the tatas. That much, care they take care of you. Now, there's one more thing that they used to do, that if at all women used to get late, we girls would get late, because we had to work extremely hard. Our training was very strenuous. We were given a car back to our apartment. But men, on the contrary, were not given the car. And this is not just for our batchmates. Men generally, in the entire hotel, and this is not just one organization. I've seen this prevalent across the world, primarily in India. And this I found to be a little unfair, because you see, men get eve teased too, men get molested too, men get raped too, men can meet with an accident too, men can get robbed too. So where I'm coming from is that let's have a very holistic point of view today and a very holistic panel discussion today. And we are going to discuss about Shecession in 3 aspects. We are first going to discuss about what is the problem? If at all there is a problem, does it exist in India? If it exists, to what extent does it exist? Which industries does it cover? The second part of the panel discussion is going to be about the solution. If there's a problem, let's find out a solution. And the third is, of course, how do we deal with it, right? If it exists, doing the why analysis of it, if it exists now, how do we actually deal with it? Because in life, we have to deal with the cards we are dealt with. So how do we deal with it? So I open the panel discussion, and I'd like to begin with Miss Iyengar. She has an incredible sense of humor and a very, very experienced and respectable professional. Ma'am, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Swati. That was a wonderful opening, and thank you, IIM, and thank you everyone for being part of this panel discussion and giving me an opportunity here. And thank you, my panelists, for being here. The first problem I would like to talk about is pronouncing this word itself, Shecession. It took me a while to, practice. It was really a tongue twister. But jokes apart, I would like to get started with some data points based on the survey. With coming from IT background, I think I would also, definitely rely a lot more on data. So one of the global survey done by Deloitte found that nearly 7 out of 10 women who experienced negative shifts in their routine as a result of pandemic believe their career progression will slow down. And another survey done by McKinsey states that the female job loss rates due to COVID is at least 1.8 times higher than those encountered by the male counterparts. Now, this is one of the reasons they found is this was due to a significant increase in the burden of unpaid care, which is disproportionately carried by the women. LinkedIn found that, like Swati initially mentioned, LinkedIn found that 89% of women believed COVID-19 affected them, and 69% of working mothers in India are claiming that they have faced discrimination due to their, household responsibilities. See, women at workplace, both in leadership and executive roles, they have displayed tremendous contribution towards the growth and agility of the workplace. However, before the pandemic, the struggle for diversity, equal pay, and growth opportunities for women was a major issue. But with this pandemic, irrespective of the sector, women have definitely faced disproportionate, impact on their careers. The additional responsibilities of home and family during this pandemic also has led women to experience, some kind of productivity impact while working from home, where they're also feeling that their jobs are insecure. For example, a very simple example I myself have come across in our organization is like a lot of my team members, they are working mothers who have small kids who have to take online classes, and they have to spend time with their kids, like especially morning. I have seen like 10:30 to 12:30 and stuff like that, where I think they will be more attentive than their kids. And I'm not sure who is doing the homework, but honestly speaking, they do spend a lot of time. And at the same time, prior to the vaccination, lot of preventive care was taken at home, especially cleaning, washing, and a lot of stuff by the women. And at the same time, if you have elderly people, you need to take care of elderly people and the kids, especially in countries like India. You do have such situations a lot where people are staying together, and which also means that balancing full-time employment along with the childcare and elderly and family responsibilities. So going by the survey, my own observation is women definitely have faced job insecurities due to COVID, especially a lot of women in the service sectors like hospitality, travel, and also, I mean, not much so in IT. In IT, it has slowed down a little bit in terms of growth. But definitely, IT is one of those sectors which has flourished in the lockdown due to digitization. And definitely, some of the women would have felt, or some people, or including all genders, would have felt there is a slow in terms of promotion or salary hike. But overall, there has been a little slowdown. However, the concept of Shecession is a very interesting one, and I personally feel it's an ongoing issue and it needs to be addressed, whether it is a pandemic or not. Yeah, over to you, Swati.
Thank you, Ms. Iyengar. I think those were some excellent points with some amazing data points, uh, and I'm glad that we are moving in towards a very logical and a very rational discussion. Let's move to Ms. Jyoti Singh. Ms. Jyoti Singh is one very power-packed, experienced HR head. Ms. Jyoti, we'd like to hear your views on it. What do you think about Shecession?
Thank you, Swati, and thank you all, IIM Sirmaur and all my panelists. So to have me here for this discussion, I would like to start this with not very philosophical, but very, very practical. And the most practical thing that I have come across, which is so simple to, I would like to share with all of you, that a human potential has nothing to do with the gender, first of all. And this is what I'm all about it. We will talk about it. Swati, you opened it not only for the female. We're going to talk about male. We're talking about transsectional, and we are going to include everyone, because the impact is larger, bigger than we realize. There are issue has not unearthed yet. So the things are not done yet. The impact of COVID-19 on the women, men, children, and all the other, all the other gender will be visible in coming days also. So it is just the start, I would say. But what is start? And I would like to say we are already late. If we are talking about Shecession today, for me, we are already late, because as early as April 2020, new investigation raised the alarm over the disappropriate impact of COVID-19 on women and their economic aspect. As the month went by, the pandemic continued to spread. Government imposed lockdown, school stayed closed, and more workers lost their job. So the economic crisis caused by COVID-19 grew into a full-blown session that society cannot afford to ignore. And this is what we are going to talk about. So it's already 1.5 years. The impact has already taken place, and the impact is so larger that now even the society is sensing it, feeling it. And I'm happy that, the people like us and the different organizations are taking it forward. But as we continue to plan our way out of this crisis, let's remember that Shecession hurts us all. When we support a woman, we support families and communities. The financial empowerment and the economic well-being of a woman is good for everyone. Let's accept that. And hence it has become very important to keep her at the center point, then talk about the other gender, men, when we are talking transactional and everything. Women make up the majority of workers in frontline sectors, including retail, healthcare, education, and paid care. And the domain like travel and tourism, retail, hospitality, leisure. I mean, these are all led by women. Let's accept that. The reason may be whatever, but these are all the areas where the women were frontline workers, they were contributing, and now today suddenly everything is on a halt or has gone minimized. So the impact is there, and it is larger to the women, as Mrs. Iyengar also mentioned, 1.8 times more than the men. So it's not a pity situation, because I know woman has inherent, they are resilient, they are anti-fragile, not only resilient, they are anti-fragile, they'll bounce back, I know. But how is a society, how is a family, how is a corporation, how is a government, how is a social society can come together, create an ecosystem in which we support each other, not only about women, right? As I said, the impact is larger and bigger. We need to take a holistic approach to support each other. I can count for my own personal experience why I'm going about the data. I mean, data is important, but for me, my experience is so important. So just 1 week in the lockdown, we started working from home, and I knew it's going to be so difficult. Within 1 month, I cried 4 or 5 times at home. And you know what it led to? I started feeling, am I so incompetent? I'm not, behaving like a good mother. There is nobody to cook. I'm not giving the food on time. I'm missing out on the meetings. I'm actually not taking care of my health because my husband is also in a leadership position with a big organization. So it was all about negative. And after a month, I realized, no, this is no way to live. I really cannot do anything. So what I started doing, I started connecting with the women in my company. Okay, how you guys are managing them. For me, I mean, like, it's so difficult. I don't even know how to manage this part of mine. So, and surprisingly, I would like to quote it that there were 90% women in my own office had a similar situation. And we were not able to share with anyone because, we all were experiencing the same feeling. And then we started thinking about, okay, let's come together, and it has to have some solutions. And then we worked. There are some solutions which has worked. There are solutions which has not worked, right? But the approach that we have taken in June 2020, I think from there on, the resilience you call anti-fragility that we have experienced have brought us this far that I'm continuing with my job. My children's education is going on. The household things are also taken care. So I think it needs a conscious effort. It needs a support from all the parts of the family, organization, and the society to give it a solution. Yes, we have a problem, and this cannot be ignored because women contribute positively to the betterment of the society, and there is no doubt about it. And let's take a very, very realistic and forward-looking approach to think about what's the problem and what is the solution going forward we can talk about. So this is what I wanted to put forward. Over to you, Swati.
Thanks, Ms. Singh. I think that was very vulnerable and authentic. And I think if any discussion is vulnerable and authentic, the beauty of it is actually that should be the real essence of it. And as you rightly said, what I found most beautiful was about that This world belongs to anyone who's got potential, anyone who's got potential. And one of the things I always say in all the forums I speak, and I did not leave this platform also to state that, they often say it's a man's world. It's not a man's world. Being a woman, I'm saying that today, in spite of whatever struggles and strife I may have had or I will have, but no, this world belongs to anyone who's willing to sweat it out, work really hard, be sincere, just go all out and do whatever it takes to achieve what you really want to achieve. Of course, at the same time being ethical and holding on to your values. So I think it's definitely not a man's world. This world belongs to anyone who's talented and hardworking. And with this, I'd like to reset the entire panel discussion. That what are we discussing today? We're discussing about Shecession, this word, and how this emanated is because everyone talks about recession. We talk about recession. So this think tank in US, and they replaced the re with she, and they stated that no, it's Shecession right now, that women are more impacted when it comes to the professional world. So here we are discussing that, okay, does it exist in India or has it seeps in through the cracks? And with this, I'd like to request Miss Jayanti to come forward and actually share her take on it. What do you think?
Thanks, Swati. And I think a lot of what I wanted to say, has been covered by Sumana and panelists and you who have spoken before me. But I'm very glad that you said that this is a problem which is not a male-female problem. It's a the pandemic has hit everyone. I'd like to take at slightly at a more philosophical level. I would like to talk about the male and the female, but rather than from a gender point of view, I'd like to talk about it from the energies point of view. And we all know that everything in this world, whether they are human beings or organizations or any kind of situation, will always have two opposite sides. It will have the female energy and it will have the male energy. And the pandemic has impacted everyone. It has impacted the whole world. That is a big problem. And especially for industries like the tourism and the hospitality industry, which, like you pointed out, Swati, has a larger proportion of women, and that has been traditionally the way it has functioned, because what you need in that service industry is more of the female energy, which traditionally is found more in women. So you need the more caring, nurturing, the more hospitable thing, which is why we probably have more female nurses and more people in the profession where it is almost essential to be more nurturing and caring. And having said that, what has happened is, the problem of the industry that I work in, which is the tourism industry, is that we can no longer afford to operate in silos, just because, unlike other industries which can, open up again if the pandemic finishes in one part of the country. Unfortunately, the tourism industry cannot, the hospitality industry cannot, because unless the whole world heals, nobody is really going to heal in this industry. This industry is not going to come back on its feet. But if you look at the female and the male energy part of it, I think the flip side of the pandemic having hit the whole world is that it has hit the whole world. So everyone knows what it is like to go through this kind of a time. This is something like once in a lifetime thing. And we've heard lots of cliches about how we'll never see something like this. And while last year started off, in some misplaced sense of optimism that, yes, this is going to last only for 14 days or 21 days or 2 months. And everyone was baking banana bread and posting on Instagram about all the food that we were making at home. I think somewhere in June, July, reality sunk in a little deeper, and we understood that this is a long-term thing. And therefore, organizations started moving from trying to do things as a piecemeal basis, trying to do employee engagement programs and trying to bring in a little bit of changes and trying to deal with working from home, again, from a temporary point of view. I think more and more organizations are starting to look at the problems that this pandemic has brought about in a more long-term fashion. And that's unfortunately one of the realities that we have to face. This is not something that's going to end anytime soon. And even if it ends, there's always this fear that it's going to restart again, and people are already predicting more waves, and they're predicting about how other illnesses can spread like this. More than anything, the fear has got into our heads that life is no longer going to be the same. And therefore, I think the energy that all of us need to harness, including organizations, is probably the female energy, where organizations have to start becoming more caring and more nurturing, and not look at it as a piecemeal basis, but they need to look at it as how that is going to actually solve problems, and that is going to be converted to policies rather than just as an exceptional thing that they do. It's no longer going to be enough to pay an employee's Wi-Fi cost because that's the way they're going to work. It's going to have to go beyond that. And as far as the hospitality and the tourism industry is concerned, I think our industry was hit the first, is going to recover the last, and will probably never recover to the original levels for the next few years. And so the solutions for each industry has to be different. At an overall level, of course, we have to start looking at more long-term solutions of how we are going to continue this effectively. But every industry will have to look at it differently, and whether it has to do with the male part of it or the female part of it, I think the solutions have to be far-reaching, and the solutions have to focus more on becoming more caring and more nurturing. And I think all of us have experienced it. It's no longer the first wave situation where the COVID tragedies are something that you read on in the newspaper or hear about in the news. Every single person on this panel and in the audience would have faced some kind of tragedy, whether it's personal or something that we heard about and it has brought a lump to our throat. And therefore, I think we all are finding it easier to be empathetic to any problems. And that is when problems start going away. And that's when problems start getting sorted by everyone, because unless you have everybody on board to solve problems, you're not going to be, you're not going to have solutions which are going to be long-term solutions. And I'd also like to, add to a few of the points as to why it affects women more. I think there's been a huge disruption of routine in the house, and all of us have experienced situation where we want to have the household help. We'd like to see them more than we'd like to see relatives, because we are not able to deal with the problems. We are not able to deal with the double amount of work. And it's also led to a lot of stress, because people, especially this is true for working partners, both the husband and the wife, if they're working, it becomes very difficult to be around each other all the time, and kids as well. So there's this monitoring of kids which is going on for 24 hours a day, and the kid doesn't have a break when he or she goes to school and spends time with their friends. So like you started off saying, the problem is much deeper. It's not a gender problem, it's a humanity problem, and that's how we have to approach it. Thanks.
Wow, that was incredible, Ms. Rajagopalan. I think that was so beautifully said. And I think this thing you said about the masculine energy and the feminine energy is just incredible, because all of us, in fact, I think you just so beautifully summed up what I started with, that all of us as human beings have masculine energy and feminine energy. Even me being a woman, I have a masculine energy and a feminine energy. Reminds me of yin and yang. And this my second book cover we are designing these days, and it's so I think synchronicity, I would say, not a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. My book cover has yin and yang on top of it, and it shows the brain, like as you said, we need to be more caring. It shows the brain in the black part, and it shows the heart in the white part, because that's how it always should be. And yes, as you rightly said, the hospitality industry, and we've been discussing this over the past yesterday, we were discussing with the other panelists as well, has been badly hit. I'm a hotelier. I've been a hotelier all my life. My heart goes out to my industry. I know how tough it is for majority of the people, primarily in operations and not ancillary departments. And in fact, a big shout out to all the students, the tourism and hospitality and PhD students as well, who are here. Of course, in the latter part of the discussion, we will be talking about solutions, boys and girls. So please, the world is not in ending any sooner. I mean, don't think it like that. And the one very beautiful thing which you said about fear, that we are all operating, as Ms. Rajagopalan said, that we are operating out of fear. So I think there is a solution to that. I think we should accept the reality of what it is. And then if we know that life is fleeting, the brevity of life and this pandemic, if it has taught us that life is highly unpredictable now, then I think the least that we can do is hold on to our loved ones tighter. Then as what Miss Rajagopalan said, let's start doing that now. Let's start being more caring. And if we don't know how much time we have on earth or how much time we have with our loved ones, we don't know about how the third wave is going to pan out, or Delta plus, or whatever plus will emerge out of it. So I think that's what we should take away from it. And like as they say, this brings me to my panelist, that is Ms. Khan, because as they say, save the best for the last. Ma'am, we would like to hear your views on, do you think the Shecession really exists? And if it exists, to what extent? To what extent?
Yeah, I mean, a lot has been. Firstly, thank you, Swati, and thank you. I guess I forgot to thank the IIM Sirmaur and the students who are part of the participants. Can't even call it an audience anymore, but wherever you're joining from, as well as my fellow panelists, thank you so much for this opportunity. So coming back to the point, and I'll be brief because a lot has been already said. If you ask me, Shecession, while it's a newly minted term, and even I had to look up and do a little bit of studies, but now that I've given it some thoughts, I would absolutely agree that it exists. There is theoretic, I mean, it's proven with data, and why it exists is also very simple to understand, because historically we have seen that recession normally hits the construction industry, the manufacturing industry, because that's where the economic downturn has an immediate impact. And those are industries dominated by men. So a recession normally impacts the men workforce than the women, who have been more in stable industries like healthcare, education, hospitality, retail, services industry, which some of them are essential services, and that's why they normally handle any recession better than maybe some of the other industry. What has happened this time because of the pandemic is it is now impacting industries which are person incentive and person intensive, and which are directly impacted by what we are calling social distancing. So if you are implementing social distancing norms in the society, it automatically means that this industry that I'm talking about, starting with education to hospitality to retail to travel to tourism to leisure, everything is getting a bigger proportion of this impact, and that is the industry which also has got more women as workforce. So definitely, it has a disproportionate impact on the women workforce. Is an absolute reality. Now, Swati, I completely agree, understand, empathize with the viewpoint that it's everybody's world. It's not a man's world, it's a woman's world. Those are nice rhetorics, honestly, to be spoken about, but it is a very difficult world for women. And it also makes sense for all us to be aware of that. Now, what are the two reasons for this happening? One is the industry impact, the type of the industry which was very, very directly impacted by pandemic, and that's why more women most probably lost a job. The other part is the entire support system that a woman normally works within sort of started crumbling. Your schools were shut. You do not have daycare. You do not have critical care facility anymore. You don't have the other traditional support system that we Indians always had, right? We talked about, staff and other people coming, which meant a disproportionate amount of workload was actually coming on women. I'm not saying that the husbands or the partners or the sons were not contributing. They were absolutely contributing, but all said and done, women really struggled to manage the professional workload as well as the workload at home, which also included looking after children, as Jayanti, you mentioned, looking after the elderly. And many of the women actually opted out of it. It was humanly not possible to take so much of pressure, and they opted out of the workforce. And also in certain situations, which I would assume would be few, if it was a choice between who opts out between a husband and a wife, In the Indian context, it would be the wife in most cases who would be expected to step back and look after the family while we go through this thing. So it's a genuine problem for women. And while it's a larger humanity problem, we all understand, but we cannot disregard the fact that it most probably disproportionately impacted the women workforce. The other very worrying statistic, since there's a whole lot of statistician in the panel, if you have looked at the women workforce data in India, you would have noticed that it has actually decreased from 30% in the early 2000 to 20% now, which is a horrible statistic for any country to have. It's a 2019 statistics, whereas in the more advanced country, the workforce between men and women is 50-50, and that's why you have equality. Swati, you talked about feminism and equality. You have equality because women have an equal say in economic matters. They have an equal say in societal matter. With the workforce depleting to 20% in India, and post-pandemic, if we get to see the data, most probably it will deplete another 5-6%. That's what's overall the country's economic future and overall country's progressive future under, I would believe that it would have some consequences. So those were the larger thoughts I have. Coming down specifically to my industry, which is IT, IBM, I think it was one of the rare industry which was most prepared to handle a pandemic situation, because we know how to work from home, how to work from remote. Most of the larger organization, most of the established organization had already enabled their employees in terms of providing, laptops, network connectivity, etc. Having the right management system of working in a remote environment. Our biggest challenge that we faced was enabling our clients. How do we make our clients more digitized and more, enabled so that business can continue as usual. The biggest thing, so that was the easier part. The biggest impact of this pandemic, Shecession, whatever is our topic of discussion today, is actually, which doesn't impact only women, it impacts everybody. And that is what we are now trying to cope with in our organization. It's the emotional toll of this entire 1.5 years. As Jayanti were mentioning that in the second wave, there is not a single family who has not been impacted. Every family has lost somebody or the other, a friend or a family, close family member. So while companies are providing all the tangible things like connectivity, network, conducting vaccination, I'm sure everybody is doing that, vaccinating every employee. It's the softer aspect of well-being and pain management that we are now as an organization concentrating more on. So maybe that is something that we need to talk more as we go forward. But how do we give that emotional support, the sense of security? Even very hard terms or hard, topics that was never talked about. Pain management. How do you cope with a loss in the family? Using psychiatric help and all. Those are the new elements, new HR interventions, which are now getting part of our lexicon. So to first point, Shecession exists. We need to be cognizant, and there has to be ways of managing that. And secondly, this pandemic is pan-gender, and everybody requires support to get out of this. Over to you, Swati.
Wow, thank you, Ms. Khan, and thank you. I think you gave a very, very holistic picture, and I think kudos to you for that. And I couldn't agree more. But as also Ms. Khan, the thing that you said, that in parts you said when it exists. So you mentioned about about the household chores that women are. They have that responsibility over their shoulders and they have to tend to it. So, out here, I'd like to share a story of, as we were discussing this topic, and some of my colleagues or acquaintance also got to know about it, that I'm involved into this and this is going to happen. And I will not take his name, but I commend him. He shared his own personal story because, and I was sharing the views of, the other panelists as well as what we've been discussing, that, a lot of, so a woman is expected to work outside, she's expected to work professionally as well, and she's expected to do the household chores as well, taking a toll on her and stuff like that. So, he shared, and I'm sure he's watching this. So he shared that, Swati, you know, I lost my job and my is working, right? And am I audible?
There was some
Your
breakage,
voice is cracking.
so I don't know if it's a
Sorry.
network issue or something else.
Okay, am I audible and visible?
You're not visible, your voice is breaking.
Sorry?
I said your voice is breaking. You may have to stop your video if you have
Stop
to
your
left
video,
for the
that
show.
we can,
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, am I visible and audible? I can't see the other panelists.
Your voice is much better, so maybe you can continue without the video for some time and then restart after a while.
Can you see me as well? Okay, I can see Ms. Khan now. All right, so this glitch happened at not the right time. All right, so I'd like to continue with what I was saying. So this person shared that he said that, you know, and my wife is working, and because she's working, I have taken the role of a house husband, and I am actually tending to the household chores. And he said he's absolutely fine by that, and even his parents support you know, this whole thing so much. In fact, that whole movie, which was Key and Ka, spoke about it, that, you know, the woman is going out and working, and the guy didn't have any qualms about being a house husband, and that was perfectly cool as long as two people are happy with each other and they're supporting each other as a rock solid equal partnership in a marriage. So I think that also is happening somewhere. It might take some time to be actually spread across. And also, I think for us as women, somewhere, I think in a situation like I shared, this live story which I shared, I think somewhere the woman also needs to understand, if in case the husband loses a job and she's the one who's the breadwinner,
We've lost her, right?
Yeah, I'm not able to hear.
Not audible. Okay, so I guess Swati will take time. So Anubhav, you want to take it up in the meantime?
Yes, sure, ma'am. So I guess there is a network issue. I will just contact Ms. Swati. Namrata, you can take it forward from there.
All right. Thanks, Anubhav. I think we all have pretty much discussed what do we understand by C-session and how we've experienced it in some way or the other. But right now, I would want to ask every single panelist present over here that according to you, what is the scale and the size of this problem? And how do you think we can cope up with this problem? Nabanita ma'am, would you like to take this forward?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I really don't think we have the data. As I said, I'll speak India here. Other countries most probably have data, but in India, I don't think we still have data published which shows the impact of this. But as I said, if our workforce has come down from 30% to 20% in a span of 20 years by 2019, without a pandemic, we can actually expect it to go down even further. So which and it most probably will be more in the informal, unorganized sector than it may be in the organized sector. Because in the organized sector, it's easier to put in place policies and practices which actually can look at the overall well-being of, you know, a woman, a mother, and a child, because those are so interlinked in India that unless there is adequate childcare provided, adequate, you know, mother healthcare provided, that this workforce cannot be enabled to re-enter. So my point over here would be that while appreciation of the problem is important, we may wait for the actual data to come and see where we size. But very quickly, we really need to pivot towards finding solutions. And you know, what should be some of those industry-wide policies that needs to be introduced, and what can be some of the legislation that also needs to be introduced at a country level to ease this problem?
Well said. I do agree to your point that uh, how important, how it is not just particularly limited to a sector or industry, and how it applies in every sort of industry, and how different policies can be brought in on industry levels. You also mentioned a point wherein you talked about formal and informal organizations. So I'll take that point to Jyoti ma'am. Ma'am, what do you think is the impact on formal and informal organizations?
Okay. See, we need to understand, the another aspect attached to this, what the topic, the subject that we are discussing today. Job losses are not the only negative impact women face in this kind of situation. Especially, I want to give you some data quickly. In the US and France and UK, the incidence of domestic abuse increased by 25 to 30% following
Absolutely.
the first confinement, right? Globally, domestic violence is expected to soar by 20% globally during lockdown. So these are all real picture. This is a real data. So what's more, around 70 countries have reported issues delivering family planning services during the pandemic. So see, when it comes to the women, feminism, and their biological, made, I think the impact is not limited only to the job loss, but their psychological, their physiological, and their, emotional aspect also to be considered. And which is more important, as Mrs. Khan also pointed it out, that it has to be a pain management initiative which needs to be taken by the government, by the social organization, by the corporation, by an individual also. At the individual level also, we try to sort out. Issues are there which cannot be ignored, right? But then, we talk about, as an organization, I come from an IT sector in which we have a lot of liberty. For us, working from home is as good as working from office because we have all the infrastructure in place. Talk about the women who are working from home and also taking care of the children, their education, and a spouse partner is also working. So Swati mentioned a point that, she met a man who were happy, being a house male. How many male will accept that? And to be frank, I mean, I have my son, I have my daughter. Do we actually ask my son, you cook one meal a day and my daughter will cook one meal a day? We don't do that, right? We try to be super mom. We try to be super sister to take care of our husband and, male part. So this is inherent. This is in our culture. And I think the change which is needed has to be at the grassroots level if we really want to give it a solution in a long term. Quickly, I want to take you through some of the solution that we have tried to give to our women employees, and not only women, the men employees were also included in it, so that there is a if there is a situation at home, there is a situation with the children, together they can deal with it. So first thing, what we have started with flexible working option for the norms. We have actually come out from the time management to the task management. So what it has changed, there is a task which will take certain amount of time. You commit the task completion, not the timesheet tracking. So we stop tracking the timesheet, login time, what time are you logging? So working hour concept has completely gone out. We are not even asking people, did you log in 8 hours, 9 hours? Stop doing that. And that has actually supported female and male both, because they had their personal time, and task is being tracked, not the time. So it was on them when they are completing the task. So that has actually helped a men and women both. Second thing that what we have done, we have considered re-entry of women. We have a program called Uthana, which is like women returner program. So the women who took off for 6 months, for a year during the pandemic last year. So we have actually enhanced that program. We are calling out those women who were not working for a year. So we are giving them training, mentorship, and our Uthana has been redefined to take care of women and to enable them to bring back to the workforce. The third thing that we have done, that we also encourage men to do their part of, like unpaid care. So what we do, we have two well-being days in a month. The first Monday and the last Friday, so that they have a long weekend, Sunday, Monday, and Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So what we call well-being days. So 2 days in a month, which is not a big thing for us to do it, but that is impacted and gave a very positive notice to the employee. And the third thing that we have started doing, that, advocating, if there is a woman, domestic abuse, it may be men or women, anything. So what we have done, we have created a committee in which anonymously anybody can share their problem. They need not to provide the detail, and that will be taken care by the counselor. So we are including in all our well-being session not only the employees but the spouse also, working, non-working, even children are also invited. So we are not only making it like employee, but their families are also invited. So what it has meant, that we were partnering to give it a solution to the problem. We can only help to some extent. It is on the individual how they are tackling on a personal level, but as an organization, these are all the initiatives that we have taken. So this is what from my side.
Very apt. I think the one takeaway from this, from all of your points, would be that mentality, the kind of mindset people have, greatly contributes to this entire concept. With that, I would hand over the virtual stage back to Swati ma'am. I think she's back. Swati ma'am, can you try muting and speaking so that we know you're here? All right. I suppose she's still having some issues with the net. So meanwhile, I'll take this question to Sumana ma'am. Ma'am, according to you, your experiences, what do you think about the contribution of people's mindset in general, the doctrines of the particular organization, committee, or society? How much all of these contribute to the situation?
Yeah, I think I'll definitely take some points what Jyoti mentioned, and take it from there, especially from the solutions perspective and the mindset perspective. The organization and also equally the families can contribute to this. For example, in terms of at the organization level, like providing a very distributed and flexible working hours for your employees will definitely help them to balance their domestic, and also they can focus on their workload. That is one thing, and it is not just because of this adversity you need to do, but employees, I mean, all employees need to be dealt with some empathy and supportive approach by the employers. Like, for example, as Jyoti mentioned, they have this program of bringing the women back. We should continue to encourage that, because a lot of women have quit their jobs, or they would have taken break due to the high pressure. We need to see if we can, welcome them back, to continue with their career with some flexible options, and at the same time support of family, like discussing with your family members, and also with proper distribution of responsibility, and where family members can also understand that yes, we should definitely help our own women in the family to pursue their careers, and also share the responsibility, will take us a long way, because everything starts at the family comes first and then everything next. So if family members can understand and support this, definitely it will carry forward to your work also. I mean, having a collaborative colleague and also an empathetic boss, it will definitely help the women to go a long way in order to achieve what she wants to achieve. And lastly, the social support, because emotional, mental, and physical well-being can be achieved through a lot of self-help groups. If you have these self-help groups where the women can virtually meet or in person meet and discuss who have similar kind of issues and problems, they will also feel some kind of a psychological, support where they can come and share the problems and, feel a little bit getting their own self space and staying relaxed. So, based on what you asked, I feel there's so many angles to it. One is the family angle, the social angle, and also from the organizational angle, where all of them have to support in this pandemic to help each other. And like as I think Jyoti Jayanti spoke about nurturing and caring and showing the kindness, being there for each other is what matters a lot.
Thank you, Ms. Iyengar. Thank you so much for that. In fact, am I visible and audible now?
Yes, you look
Okay.
pretty now, more prettier now.
Oh, okay. So I think whatever happens, happens for good, right? वही होता है जो मंजूर खुदा होता है. Okay. So you rightly said, Ms. Iyengar, I think I don't know if I was audible and visible when I said that I think we all should take a cue in this pandemic, and especially regarding Shecession, about that movie called Key and Ka, in which that guy had absolutely no qualms about being the house husband, wherein Kareena Kapoor, was fending for the family and she was doing great in her career. But as long as they had a beautiful, good, happy marriage, and which was a rock solid partnership, usually it happens like the woman takes care of home and the man fends. But then if that was the case, and he was perfectly fine with it, and so was she. So I think we should all take a cue.
In that case, we will have more of he sessions. It's not going anywhere, actually. If you change the gender, the other gender will be impacted.
Okay, all right, I take that. Okay, that's a food for thought. Okay, but don't you think that'll be an interesting world to see, wherein?
I'm ready for it.
Okay, all right. Now we move to Ms. Rajagopalan. I believe Ms. Khan has already spoken, and I heard Jyoti, Ms. Singh speaking, and Ms. Iyengar. Ms. Rajagopalan, what do you think? What do you think are the possible solutions for this? And we see your lovely son there, Ms. Singh. That's quite a sight, during this virtual world of the pandemic.
Yeah,
So,
I
Ms.
think
Rajagopalan, yeah.
yes, as far as finding solutions is concerned, I'm looking at it at different levels. At an industry level, each industry needs to deal with it differently. I think the IT industry is dealing with more, non-logistic related solutions. Like both, I think Sumana and Ms. Khan also spoke about how they're looking at getting more into the emotional support system and providing those things which probably were nice to have, but not need to have till a few months ago. But now they're almost like definitely something that you need to have because you're dealing with human beings, you're dealing with emotions. So that's at an organization level. At an organization level, I think, certain changes take a long period of time. Any change actually takes a long period of time, and which is why Key and Ka will remain one movie with one story. Your friend's story will be one-off story. It'll be an anecdote rather than it will never get reflected in data points till probably many, many years. But I think some changes have happened, maybe a year and a half ago. And I've heard a lot of my friends talking about, when they ask their husband to help if the maid has not come, immediately they'll say, "Dekha, maine kitna acha saaf kiya, I did this and I did that," and making it seem like a big deal that they did something which, she does it day in and day out, and she's responsible for, and all of us have those kind of stories, but I think the pandemic has forced us to look at it differently. I think more husbands now realize how much of work goes into keeping a house running, and therefore the solutions of, sharing of responsibility, sharing of chores has happened in a lot of places. It has happened quicker than it would have happened over several generations. And this has been forced because of lockdown, because of, the man actually able to see that, yes, it's taking a huge toll on her to look after the house as well as the office. So they realize that unless they pitch in without making a big deal of it, it's not really going to work. And that has, that has hastened a lot of the change. As far as social change in other, unorganized sector or amongst people who probably don't have the economic independence to walk out of a marriage, etc., is concerned, I think that's a bigger issue. I'm not really sure this is a forum for discussion as to how those things can be helped. But maybe organizations can also look at supporting, NGOs which are working in this a lot more financially. Maybe contribution can come in because they are aware of the emotional toll that this pandemic is taking on these issues as well. But as far as hiring decisions go, I remember when I graduated from XLRI in 1995, if you were going to look for a job, some of my batchmates changed jobs very quickly, like in say 4 or 5 years, they must have switched maybe a couple of organizations. And it was always seen as, oh my God, like you are so unstable, like you don't really stay in the same organization. And that's the way any CV would read, when you have changed multiple jobs very quickly, you would not be a great candidate. But a similar CV today would seem like, oh wow, you have experience across industries, because people understand that things are moving, things are changing. Switching jobs doesn't necessarily mean that you're not likely to be a great employee. Companies are looking at these CVs differently. Running an organization, being an entrepreneur, even if it's of a failed entrepreneurship, is being seen as being far more successful than being in a dead-end job and not contributing anything. So a lot of the opinions of how you hire is changing, and probably this pandemic will also bring to the fore a lot of these kind of, I won't call it leniency, but a reality check on who's a good candidate, who's not a great candidate. So people who are graduating this year, while a lot of the industries might not be open to hiring because of whatever they are facing, employers maybe would automatically or would need to make policies which is looking at opportunities for these batches differently. So probably they will look at a lot of the people, and this will bring me to the individual level. If you see that you're not getting opportunities in corporates, in organizations, which were probably your dream job when you joined the MBA program, look at alternate industry, look at industries which are flooding because of the pandemic, and see whether you can be an entrepreneur in those industries. A lot of people are looking at medical solutions. A lot of people have come up with amazing discoveries as to how we can solve the problems that are being faced because of the huge burden on the medical system as well. And therefore there are huge opportunities, and there could not be a better opportunity to be creative, because there are so many problems. And, creativity will flourish in a situation where you see opportunity. And there are so many opportunities in this pandemic, so many problems that people are facing. Look at work from home. People have now, talking about these small units that you can put in your house and create an office as a part of the room. All this is born out of necessity. They say necessity is the mother of invention, and there are so many new necessities that have emerged now. So as an individual, I think we just need to look at it differently. We need to look at the positive side of the mess that has been, brought because of this pandemic, and see opportunity there. So, from an industry point of view, it has to be different. From an individual's point of view, it has to be different. And from the internal person's point of view, how you look at certain situations, that also has to undergo a huge change. And that's something which I think we as women have a bigger role to push that agenda, because we want to be equals, or we want to bring about certain changes in the men. If we want them to take on more of the responsibilities, we have to say it. We have to talk about it. We have to bring about a dialogue, and we can't just wait for a key and a car to give them that message, because it's not going to go there. That's probably not a movie that the men will watch in any case. So it has to be something that has to happen at all levels. And I somehow feel that we all need to be like the last the extra time that you get in a football match, which is at a knockout stage, and you're tied 1-1. Even the goalkeeper is coming out to try and hit a goal. You forget all your roles, you forget what all you set out for, and you're trying to just find a solution to make sure that you win the match. So we need to get into that state rather than sit back and, and analyze at a company level that, we need to do this, 5 years later, we will have this kind of a situation, because everything has to be intensified because the problem is intensive, and therefore the solutions also to be very intensified. Over to you.
I think, thank you, Ms. Rajagopalan. Again, you were being very, very candid. And I think, as you rightly said about having a conversation, I think this pandemic is also, and for all the women now, this pandemic is also a litmus test of your relationships or the dynamics in which you live. And if you feel that in spite of doing whatever that you are doing, in spite of whatever value you bring to the table, you're not supported or respected, I think you have to put it on the table. It's time to do that. This is the time to do that. If this is a downtime to do a lot of things, this is also a downtime to do a litmus test, which it has presented to all our relationships in life, and actually do a check and actually have that conversation. And if you are, two things will happen. Either you will be supported, great, that will be a very congenial, a happy atmosphere at home. If you're not supported, then you probably also need to take action and introspect. A lot of self-reflection and introspection. I think it will provide you a good food for thought. Now, I work with OYO and I head their content L&D. Some of the great things that we have been doing for women is we always had a network called OWN, which is OYO Women Network. And it's not just that in the onslaught of this pandemic that we had this, we always had that. But yes, with the second wave, which the ravaging second wave, we had a lot of psychologists, eminent psychologists, emotional wellness coaches, and we had a lot of sessions from them, which honestly, personally, I felt also, because I did attend them, they were really helpful. And they talk about mindfulness, and they also talk about the daily, day-to-day things that we do and how it can actually help us. Apart from that, very interesting thing is that we got Wednesdays off when the second wave was just flaring up. We got Wednesdays off until first week of June. So we had a 4-day week. And secondly, we have infinite leaves that we can take until July. And all this was done keeping in mind that there is a lot of household chores and housework that's been entrusted upon. At the same time, grappling with the reality of what has happened with India suddenly, which is unfathomable. So we have these, and these leaves are not accounted for. You don't have to tell your manager, you don't have to ask for leave. You just have to send a message that, I'm off today, I won't be working. So it's that cool. And another thing that we are doing is, as Jyoti said, what we are doing is that we don't count hours. There's nobody's, like sitting at you with a hawk's eye and with a magnifying glass that, you have to start your work at this time or end your work at this time. It's pretty flexible. What we are concerned about is results. The result should be achieved, whether you do it at 2 a.m. in the morning or whether you'd like to do it, at 6 a.m. in the morning. It's completely up to you. So I think these are the few things that we are doing. And yes, like as I said, that this pandemic is also a litmus test for your relationships, ladies. You have to have that talk, and please understand that conversation delayed is a conversation multiplied. If you're delaying it, thinking that, okay, there will be ruckus around the house, it'll one fine day blow up like a volcano. So it's better to have that conversation now. With this now, let's move on to a very, very interesting bit, which is the third part of our discussion, which is about now, okay, how do we deal with this? Let's also take a very holistic standpoint also for the audiences who are watching it. How do we actually deal with the cards that we've dealt with now? How do we remain resilient in these times? How do we actually deal with this adversity that we are dawned upon, all of us, and we're all in this together? So I'd like to begin with Ms. Khan. and would want to know, ma'am, what do you think that we should do to remain resilient in this incredibly tough times?
So again, there are two aspects. One is the hard measurable activities that all companies should do. I guess Jyoti, Sumana, Jayanti talked a lot about it. You also mentioned Swati. So, work from home facility, telecommuting, flexible work hours, choosing your own time to work, choosing the number of days you would like to work, part-time work, etc., which some companies have been doing, should now most probably become pervasive right across. Number two is, again, Swati, you mentioned, Jyoti, you mentioned about bringing women back. Sumana, you also mentioned. So in IBM also, we have targeted program. We call it Bring Her Back. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. It had to do with women needing to take professional breaks because of their life choices, and because certain when they're in the 30s and 40s, there are multiple priorities one needs to actually handle. So this program will become more relevant once we start coming back, and it's not only about giving them the employment opportunity, but it's enabling them to work in the newer way of work. Because now we are a lot tech reliant, a lot tech dependent. Our entire collaboration is now digital, right? So being conversant with those, and that's the third thing I like to talk about: investment in these tools, collaborative tools. Because when the pandemic actually hit us, our clients struggled, and the thing that we sort of helped them, they also did on their own, is setting up that collaboration network, right? How can they restart work by even connecting with each other? So the Webexes and the Teams and the Trellos and the Slacks and everything became standard. But then that was only one part of the enablement. That's only scratching the surface, right? You actually need to take it down to your I might go a little technical over here. You have to, in the next, once you're out of the pandemic, or even now as you're doing it, you have to take your entire working system below the level of collaboration to the actual business processes. And you have to ensure that those processes are now digitalized so that we are more resilient for any such disruption. If it happens again, if the third wave comes, we can assure you that most of our clients are actually ready to ensure that their manufacturing are chugging along. People are working from remote locations. All their core functions, core workflows are working fine. So that's the large level of digitalization and movement of the workload to cloud. My favorite subject is something that as an industry, not only IT, as a large scale industry, India has to invest in. And then the third thing I'll talk about is making women or making employees more comfortable in the way they can deliver the work. So in IBM, we have daycare centers, we have home care centers, etc. Home care facility where people come home and look after your elderly parents or sick parents if need be. Those are the sort of things we have to do more of, and I would expect the industry to again do more of, because giving those hard support system as well as the emotional support for this workforce to come back full-fledged in the back to the industry. These are some of the must things that we need to do.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. And I'll quickly move to other panelists now because we are running short of time. We need to do the Q&A also for the students, and the audience who are watching it. So, and I'll request my co-panelists to let's just speed it up, and I'll request them to be precise. I go to Ms. Iyengar now.
Yeah, like in terms of like resilience, as you said, Swati, like this is one thing women is expert at, which is resilience, and that's one of the reasons why the corporate leaders, the corporates should continue to maintain the diversity ratio and bring more women into the leadership role as well, which comes to a point where like if you continue to encourage women, especially those who are contemplating to leave, for example in this current pandemic, I myself have come across a situation where some of them came forward and they put papers. We encouraged them not to leave and we were holding them back, and also try to get a little bit serious about internal mobility, because if you see there are certain positions that are open opened in your organization, where within your organization you identify people. For example, somebody who is good in marketing, if that person has interest, if she has interest and if she can be moved to sales, try to do those kind of internal mobility and try to fill the, those talent gaps. Because sometimes these kind of, which means that like within your recruitment team, try to find internal headhunters looking for the right talent within your organization, and encourage, the women who might be interested in maybe a different field, or they want to change their career path within the organization, like, move from marketing to sales, from HR to operations, or from finance to IT. There will be a lot of opportunities where the internal headhunters looking for the right talent can fill those gaps. And also, reassigning the roles or the task based on the key skill sets, not based on any gender. That will help to build motivation and confidence for the women. So overall, you try to create a very supportive and a motivated work environment, so that it is based on the values of team spirit and collaboration. So that is what I just wanted to share.
Great. Some very, very pragmatic, practical points coming in from you, Ms. Iyengar. We now move to Ms. Jyoti Singh. What do you think? How do you think we can deal with this?
I think most of it I covered during my, what I shared. But quickly, I want to tell that technology is agnostic to gender again, and business opportunities in many ways are also agnostic to gender if you view it that way. So why women should be given only certain roles? See, fundamentally, if you look at the role of a woman in a family cannot be replaced. The way she takes care of a child, a father may not be, accept the fact, she's not replaceable at home, suppose. So, there are certain roles, and I'm so happy to talk about the gig economy, which is coming up, and we are really into it, that, take up a project-based role where you need to commit to a project or a task and get with it. I mean, you are professional, you are doing your professional job, you're taking care of the family also. I think the balance has to be strike out at the individual level. Like, suppose if I talk about, I want to work only 4 hours a day, given the opportunity, but my role does not allow me. But I'm looking out something which, like in a year or so, I should be able to implement that, not compromising my professional career, but also taking care of my family, because my family also demands me. And it's not that, this stage, after 4 or 5 years, when my children are settled, going to college, I'll be free again coming back. So nobody's sacrificing. It's all about the individual level. You need to strike out the balance. But as in society, we need to understand that stronger engagement on gender equality is a key to sustainable global recovery from the COVID-19 crisis, and building a fairer, more inclusive, and more prosperous society. This should be the objective. Women and girls are in the front line of the pandemic and must be put in the driving seat of the recovery. That's all I want to say.
Okay, well said. Well said, Ms. Jyoti Singh. We move to Ms. Rajagopalan. Ma'am, what do you think?
I'll just keep it very short because, we've all got similar thoughts. I think as women, one of the things we tend to do is to want to solve all our problems ourselves. And this whole thing of guilt that I'm not doing something properly and, I'm not playing a good mother, I'm not being a good wife or whatever. I think this pandemic, more than any other, has given us an opportunity to ask for help, and without somebody looking at it as something that we should not be doing. So two things for women: ask for help, whether it is a personal thing or, from your basis, your relationship, if you want to improve it and you want to ask for help because you're not able to deal with it. That's one. Secondly, professionally, ask for help if you want to do something in an organization, and like Sumana said, if you want to move roles, this is the time to do it. This is also the time to reflect whether you want to continue doing what you've been doing. A lot of us have been in jobs where we are just doing it because it's paying us well, and we're just getting on with it, and we don't have an opportunity. We just caught up, in some cases with golden handcuffs. We don't really want to leave. Maybe if you've got laid off, or if you want to work in a different field, and if you're fortunate enough to have the financial help from being married to somebody who has a full-time job and wants to continue that, maybe this is a time to pursue some passion that you otherwise had put on your on the back burner. And don't look at trying to solve all your problems by yourself. So ask for help is the message that I'd like to leave all the women with.
Thank you, Ms. Rajagopalan. Actually, it seemed like it was, I felt like it was for me, honestly, because, that is one of my, I would say, area of improvement. I have myself also, sort of learned this over a period of time about myself, that I also have I have this problem of asking for help. And I think I need to apply that first on myself. I need to start doing that, because honestly, so I live all by myself, right? And so I'm the man of the house and I'm the woman of the house as well. So I do everything on my own, and it's like asking for help is like below my dignity. So I think it's not the right thing. I have learned that. And thank you for pointing it. As you said that, it felt like the universe speaking to me that I should reach out to people and ask for help. Yes. So my final take on building resilience and dealing with adversity. My entire book, The Secret Sauce Is You, talks about a lot of inner work. And I want everybody here, not just women, men, any gender, I want everybody to know that if you're feeling sad, please feel it. Don't run away from it. The problem is, all our lives we keep running away from ourselves, our own feelings. Will you leave your child alone ever? No, you will not leave your child alone. Then how can you leave your feelings alone? Because the only way, whatever you are feeling, it will only go away when you feel it. And first of all, and this psychologist and psychiatrists always say this, whatever you are feeling, when you feel it, try and give it a name. Okay, am I feeling fearful? Am I sad? Am I remorseful? Am I regretful? Am I anxious? Am I feeling that anxiety? Try and give a name to it. When you give a name to that monster, you're able to deal with it. When you know what a problem is, will you be able to find a solution to it? So my humble submission to everybody watching this today, please don't run away from your feelings. Feel it. It will hurt, but it will hurt for them, and then you will be able to, overcome that much faster. Don't eradicate, don't use the band-aid approach that, okay, let me watch a movie, Netflix, talk to a friend. Just don't, because whatever you push away, it'll come back. If you bury your own emotions alive, they will come back, they will manifest in uglier ways, in the form of physical diseases, in the form of mental health issues. So if you feel like crying, please cry. If there are people at home, go to the bathroom, switch on the tap so that nobody can hear it, open, and in that, please cry. If you think people will hear, put your face into a towel and cry. We've all got tear ducts in our eyes for a reason, just like we have a heart and a brain and kidneys and liver and gallbladder. Use your tear ducts. Please cry. Please take it out if you feel like crying. Whatever you are feeling, face it. They are your feelings, they are your babies. And that's how they will go away. That's the crux of what I'd like to say. Though this is a very vast topic, let's move on to the Q&A session now. I think Anubhav is here, and this Q&A session is open to everybody, all the MBA, PhD, tourism and hospitality students. Please shoot your questions. If you want to shoot a question to a specific panelist, you can do that. If you want to shoot it to all of us, we'll be very happy to answer. Anubhav, the stage is all yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Swati, and thank you everyone for discussing about the whole topic and giving us insights around it, and making us aware of how it exists and what are the effects of it. So right now, I guess students want to take some questions up with one of the panelists. So students, you can raise your hand if you have any question to any one of the panelists or for the whole panel, and we'll just ask your name out. I think our first question is from Sanya. So Sanya, do you want to take it up?
Thank you, Anubhav. So first of all, thank you, panelists. It was a very insightful session. And my question is directed towards Nabanita ma'am. So I just wanted to ask, like, what are the probable long-term effects and outcomes of this Shecession?
Okay, thank you, Sanya. That's a very good question. If we specifically look at recession as a problem, I guess the entire economy, the sort of turmoil that's happening in the economy in our country as well as a few other countries, while many countries, including ours, most probably are now on the recovery path. It's going to be a long haul. I guess one of you mentioned it, that this is not going to, firstly, the pandemic might come to haunt us or may remain to haunt us for the next few quarters. There could be multiple waves coming in. Till the time 90% of our population is fully vaccinated, of course, that threat is over there, which would mean that full recovery, full potential of our economy is going to take maybe a few more quarters for us to see. If our economy is not growing at the rate of 7-8% or double digit as we were expecting, obviously the impact on the women workforce will be equal, if not more, right? So from that perspective, I see that she economy or she recession, if you look at it only specifically, I would like to link it to the larger economic recovery that we are seeing. And it is completely linked that way. So it cannot, I don't think it will be prudent to say that he recession will end first and she recession will end later. Maybe women will face a little more time, because as we discussed, some of the jobs which are lost and some of the jobs which will be permanently lost, because the new way of working, new way of delivering services, let's say in education or medicine or in services, are here to stay. They are not, it's not that one fine day everything will stop and we will go back to the old way of working. So some losses, some job losses are permanent. And in those permanent job losses, there could be a larger proportion that women used to provide. So that is lost for good. But I would say that as the economy sort of makes a turnaround, recovers, the recession will also follow and start ebbing.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is from Anirban. Anirban, go ahead.
Thank you, Anubhav, and thank you to all the esteemed panelists here. So I just wanted to share a personal experience with some of my ex-colleagues and classmates too, that there have been an increase in the number of freelancers as well as women entrepreneurs, if you think in that way, because they have the suggestion, or they have the idea that it has become a bit more easy to secure funding, a bit more easy to find co-founders because of the increased tech impact of after the COVID has hit. So can we say that this is opening up new avenues for women to not just search for full-time jobs or work 9-to-5 jobs, and be at the pioneering roles of different organizations, become CXOs of new organizations and startups?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Anirban. I think Ms. Rajagopalan here, who's an entrepreneur herself, I think to the extent of, as you said about finding investments and being a co-founder, etc., I think she or I think Ms. Iyengar will be able to answer this question well. I think I'll leave it to both of you.
I can start and then maybe Sumana can add to that. Yeah, I mean, anytime any problem strikes, if the problem is very intensive and if you have a solution which is going to solve the problem, or if you see a situation where certain aspects of doing business has changed and you've managed to, harness that, then definitely, yes, whether women harness it more or whether men harness it more, I'm not really sure that makes a difference right now. But some of the reasons you've mentioned in your chat about women being more confident now that they don't have to personally meet people and they can pitch ideas online. And if a woman wants to look at it as something that was holding her back, and she sees a situation today having changed, and that person is able to take advantage of it, definitely. Whether this is an anecdotal incident, or whether this will lead to long-term changes, is something that we'll have to wait and see. Irrespective of the pandemic, I do hope in the next 5-6 years we see more female CXOs in the system. I really hope that is true, irrespective of whether there's a pandemic or not. But I think it is a question, like what I said, during one of my discussions, that if you find a solution, or if you find the opportunity for a solution, you should grab it. And who grabs it, whether a woman grabs it or whether a man grabs it, it really doesn't make a difference. But if the circumstances are such that women are able to grab it more, great, more power to them.
Yeah, I'll just, Nitwan, thanks for that question. I'll just add to what John said. Like, yes, definitely there is a benefit in this virtual world where you don't have to travel. See, for example, I myself will be traveling throughout the year, and in the last 1.5 years, I haven't traveled, but yet Goavega has been resilient, and we have still grown in terms of business. As Jayanti said, yes, if you have a killer idea and if it's a disruptive idea and you know that it's an idea that can stay stable for a while and you're able to show the growth and that you can keep the company stable, then definitely you will definitely see more and more women on the driver's seat. See, the biggest challenge for entrepreneurs today, I'm telling you, every year you will see hundreds of companies getting started. It doesn't matter men or women, who it doesn't matter about the gender. It's about the sustenance. It's about the stability. Lot of them, in that 90% of them will not be successful in the second year. So there is no formula for this that they will exist in 5 to 6 years. There'll be so many drivers. It's about not just about the idea. It is also about, will you be able to sustain? Will you be able to grow? Will you be stable? That is what will make more and more people come on the driver's seat. Actually, gender doesn't matter here. But yes, the biggest advantage is being in this virtual world. You don't have to travel. You can do a lot of virtual pitches. I think that's the only advantage. But you know what? Honestly speaking, meeting in person is definitely a better experience than all this virtual thing. You can really feel the pressure. When you are on the stage and doing that real pitch, right? It's amazing. It's a different feeling. I really want to get back to the normal world.
Beautiful. I think greatly said, ma'am. I think the power of meeting somebody in person and pitching that idea is completely different, and can never be, I think, marred with this virtual world. Yes. Okay. Anubhav, we have any more
Yes.
questions?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. That will be really very helpful for the budding entrepreneurs, I guess. Now, as we are running short of time, so Swati, there's one more question. Shall we take that and then we can close
Sure.
it?
Sure,
Yeah,
we can.
okay. So there is one more question from Kalpana. Kalpana, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank all the panelists for such a wonderful session. So, ma'am, as we are talking about emotions and the male and female energies, I would like to. I have two questions actually. So, first of all, since we know that women go through a lot of things that their male counterparts don't, such as that time of the month, maternity leaves, PMSs, as we talk about. So do you think that women go through more hindrances in producing, effective and efficient work for the company? And my second question would be that what are the policies that you feel have to be implemented in a company and a company should have for women welfare and in generally, employee welfare as well, after going through such a pandemic and when, we are aware of such new problems emotionally and mentally? So yeah.
Sure. Can you repeat the second part of your question?
Ma'am, my second question is that, as during the pandemic, we have become aware about new problems emotionally and mentally. We know that employees go through a lot. My question is, what are the policy changes that we are going to see once we are back in the normal mode, hopefully in the offline mode, and we go back to the offices? So what will be the first policy changes in the companies that we are going to see, hopefully?
Okay, I think the second part of your question, I will, pitch into regarding the policies. I will pitch in Ms. Jyoti Singh and Ms. Khan. They can throw some light on it. And the first part of your question, I will end with that. I'll come back to that. Right. So over to Ms. Jyoti Singh or Ms. Khan, whosoever would like to take the second part of her question regarding the policies in an organization that companies can take as to how do women deal with it.
Okay, Swati, if you allow, I also want to talk about the first question because I think woman as a woman, I think it's important for women to remember that who she is in any given situation, let it be family or the work or the society. I think know thyself is the answer for the physiological, biological things. It's in not your hand. Gender is not chosen by us. It was given as a gift. So take it that way, and it's a gift. Life is a gift. The gender is also a gift. Uh, take it as as a human being. I am a human being and I'm alike man or the other gender. The difference here a female brings more on and my co-panelists also mentioned about taking on everything on us, even during the difficult time we don't seek out the help. We feel like we are the superwoman and we can do everything. So I think know thyself helps having a clarity and understanding about your strength and weaknesses and strike out the balance. What works best for you, go for it. There is nothing called an angel or a godly figure. End of the day, we all are human beings. We have our certain how fragile we are, how strong we are. I think we need to know that as a woman also. The second thing, I think the policy part, I want to answer Kalpana that, I mentioned about corporations can help, societies can help, but the best help a woman can do for herself is the one. She's the one who can help herself and choose which are her priorities. From the organization standpoint, if I need to talk, there are women specific policies. But I tell you what happens when we talk about women specific policies, we actually create more discrimination. And I give you an example. There was a free pass given to women, metro free pass for women. Why? We don't need a free pass. We need equal rights, right? We are not begging here. We are not begging here that give me more salary. And I give you example. I don't want to name the company. I know I'm very close to that company, global organization. On the Women's Day, they give 10% hike, just like that. No, I mean, I don't want to be given more height just because I'm a woman. Do I deserve it? Then I want it. So making the women specific policies until unless if it is posh, correct? If it is related to, her well-being, female well-being, yes, of course. But it has to be employee-friendly policies which should be in place. And I'm sure most of the companies have it. But the need of the hour is, as I mentioned in my previous discussions, that consider have an empathetic, view, listen to her and try to give it a solution in a suggestive form. She's not looking for somebody to come and take care of the household chores. No, she's not looking. All she wants, be empathetic, listen to her and give her some flexibility so that she can manage. She knows how to manage. She has been managing. We have many women leaders in this country, especially in India, proven continuously, right? So there is that impact and there is that anti-fragility that we already have inbuilt in us as a female. Bring that out. And this is the time for it. So I just want to say that.
So I will completely echo Jyoti on that. So on policy perspective, Kalpana, it's equitable HR policies across all genders and not only genders, as earlier Swati mentioned, it's LBGQT, everybody, right? So, but at the same time, being cognizant of certain life choices that women will have to make and certain, factors that you talked about. So giving them the flexibility that is required in terms of choosing how they want to work, where they want to work from, etc. And providing certain additional maybe HR policies in terms of women's safety, which will be safe commute between home and work, as well as very importantly workplace safety, as well as POSH, as Swati mentioned. Absolutely, those are very, very important to be visibly, openly, continuously talking about it, and not just have a policy in place, but and do lip service, but make it part of every leadership discussion. So that is actually what differentiates okay company from a good company, because policies everybody would have. It is the intention and the leadership mandate behind enforcing those and providing that level playing field to everybody is what differentiates the good from the average. But I'd like to come back to the first part of your point, because I guess that's more interesting. And Swati, of course, you will have the last word. The first part is, I'll refer to a Harvard study that Harvard did across leadership of women and men. And they actually found that women are 84% more effective than men. Or rather, let me put it this way, not 84%. Women are more effective than men in 84% of the leadership competence that one requires, which is collaboration, integrity, honesty, development, taking the team along, business thinking, what we call perspective thinking, etc. And it's men were only good in a couple of points, which had to more do with the technical depth and with a business perspective. So surprising outcome, and a very understood and understated outcome, I would say, for women folks, for people like us or people like you, to not really appreciate the inherent quality that we bring. And what that is linked to is another study that Harvard did, linked studies completely, is that what is the confidence level of women? And what was surprising to find, they found is the confidence level of a woman is relatively good in 20s. When they're in their 20s, that's just about starting. So you and Anubhav and all might be going with the same level of energy. Confidence level of a woman comes down in the 30s. It again goes up in the 40s. Whereas for a man, it remains steady, 20s, 30s, 40s. So what happens in this career life cycle for women is something happens during the late 20s and late 30s. We all know what happens, where certain life choices, certain prioritization, etc. happens. And women sort of lose out on that confidence, lose out. And that is the biggest problem we have in the corporate world right now, where we are seeing leakage of talent. We are seeing leakage of talent happening in the 30s and early 40s, and by the time women come back or they start taking their career as seriously as they should be taking right from day one, a lot of the leadership positions are already taken. A lot of the opportunities are already gone. So that would be my only, you might say, my word of advice of somebody who spent more than 30 years in the industry. That firstly, be absolutely serious about your career. We know that we have to do multiple jobs. It's fine. Accept it. Do both of them equally, with the equal level of honesty that it requires. Secondly, be ambitious. Be ambitious. Don't feel ashamed to ask for the next role. Don't feel ashamed to ask for your due. Don't expect that your manager would recognize your good work and it will automatically come to you. Your manager loves you for being a great worker, but your manager will not give you the promotion unless once in a while you're applauding. And that is why the third thing that I like to add is you have to be your own advocate. Don't expect, while there will be policies, there will be a very nurturing ecosystem, but unless you are serious about it, unless you are your own advocate, it's not going to happen.
Wow, that is so beautiful. That's so beautiful, Ms. Khan, whatever you said, especially this Harvard study that you mentioned. And I was just thinking, and I was just linking it to some of my personal experiences as to, why women are more effective, in leadership positions. And what I understood from that is basically that, so I'd like to share again a personal anecdote. So my mother has had a kidney transplant, and my father gave the kidney. And they told us, the hospital statistics show that while a lot of women are willing to give kidneys to their husbands, men seldom do. So I think this whole thing that you said, that a lot of leadership traits, 84% of them, are prevalent in women more than men. I think that goes to the fact that we are naturally very nurturing and caring as women, and also emotionally very, very resilient. And I think the audience here, all the students here, again, I'd like to give an example. The reason I give Bollywood examples is they're very relatable. If you all have seen this movie called Hum Tum, in which Abhishek Bachchan actually at the airport, gives tells to Rani Mukherjee that they're talking about who's more stronger. So that's when in Abhishek, and I'm glad being a man, he says that while these women, while we men may be physically stronger than them, but mentally and emotionally, women are much stronger than us, and that is why the statistics show that while women may be adept to getting depression twice as much as men, but men are men actually die of heart attacks 4 times more than women. Okay, so and that amounts to Kalpana, your question, basically it's about women are naturally more resilient, and as Jyoti said about being a woman is a gift. Honestly, I'd like to sum it up with that. If at all I reincarnate, I mean, I take rebirths, and until whenever I take them, I consider womanhood as such a gift. I would like to be born. It's my innate wish, and I'm saying this in evening. They say that whatever you say in the evening sometimes comes true. I'd like to be born as a woman in every lifetime. I'm so happy to be a woman. So that's how I'd like to conclude this. And over to Anubhav, and I see Roshan here.
Yeah. Thank you, Swati, and thank you.
Anubhav, I just have to make one point in a
Yes,
chat
yes,
box.
sure.
I have given
Sure,
a
ma'am,
link
go ahead.
I have given a link. I request all of you to please go through that. It has got very practical content, and we have recommended this for a lot of people who got benefited not during the pandemic but otherwise also. It's about having the more clarity, more understanding, and be more resilient. So just you can just explore and try to get benefited. Thank you so much.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. That will surely be beneficial for the student. And now, as we end the Q&A session, I would like to request my colleague Namrata to give the thank you note, and then we can close the session.
Thanks, Anubhav. I hope I'm clearly audible.
Yes, you are. Yes, you're audible and visible as well, Namrata.
I would like to start with.
We can't hear you, Namrata. Yes, we can see you now. And
Am I visible now?
yes, you're audible as well. Yes.
I would like to start by thanking all of the speakers. Thank you so much for sharing your point of views, perspectives, and understanding about the word, the hard to pronounce word Shecession, and how beautifully you put your thoughts in such great words. I would start by saying thank you to Jyoti ma'am. Ma'am, we coming from a tourism background, I do agree that you and your team were definitely the ones who experienced the aftermath of the pandemic in the very first. We do agree that continuity is basically a man-made illusion, and we have to understand that things won't be stable forever. Things can go up and they can come down, and we have to be prepared for it no matter what. Next, I would like to thank Jyoti ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. How true was your line that human potential has nothing really to do with gender, and how everyone should be promoted and given equal opportunities. I think you were the first ones to talk about, to introduce, to bring in the point of view of how mentality contributes and changes the entire point of view. How mentality has the potential to change the entire world, and that was amazing and really beautiful. Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, I would say thanks, Sumana ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. You started off with sharing such amazing data, which was in fact really relevant to the topic and the theme of the session. And I do agree with you that this journey is pretty long, and changes cannot change just in a click. We have to start with small changes. We have to take baby steps, touch small milestones, and then only we'll be able to see a difference in the bigger picture. Last but not the least, I would say hearty thanks to Nabanita ma'am. Thank you so much. We all were absolutely amazed by the kind of understanding, knowledge, and insights you have towards literally almost every industry present. It was absolutely amazing. And we loved how you introduced concepts like pain management and industry must to all of us. They were very relevant and really, really great. And of course, I would thank our moderator Swati ma'am. Thank you for being so jolly, for sharing all of your stories and personal experiences and point of views and everything. Thank you so much, ma'am. Lastly, I would thank all of the students for being with us, asking such nice questions, and the IT team as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Students are now allowed to leave the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Namrata, Anubhav, my co-panelists, and it was great to know all of you. We'll be connected. Thank you.
Thank
Same
you.
here.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.